In the last couple of weeks, I've been asked by viewers to show both flash effects and pulse effects. So we're going to combine both into one tutorial since pulsing and flashing elements has such a similar code arrangement. First, we'll show you how to flash elements. So I'm going to go into my example.html file, and right under my h1 heading, I'm going to add another h1 heading. And it can be any element that you want in HTML. So for the inner HTML, I'll just type in flashing elements. Now if we take a look at what that renders, it's just a black page with white text on it so far. Now I'm going to go up into my CSS and I'm going to add a class called flashit. Opening curly brace and closing curly brace. So anything in my document that's given the flashit class, we want to apply an animation to, and it's a keyframe animation. So within that CSS rule, what we're going to do is type in animation, colon, we're going to put the name of the keyframe animation that we're about to create, and I'm going to name it simply flash. Then we have to put in how we want the animation to run, and I'm just going to have a linear animation. How long it takes for the animation to occur, I'm going to put 1 second. And how many times we want the animation to occur, and I want it to be infinite because it's just going to keep looping. If I want it to happen only 5 times, I would put a 5 in place of the word infinite. But if you put infinite, that means it'll just keep looping. Now I simply apply my flash keyframe animation, and that's very simple to do. So right after the @ symbol and the word keyframes, you put the name of the animation, and then you just put as many keyframes as you want in there. And if you're used to working in something like flash authoring, this would be your first keyframe, this is your second keyframe, and this is your last keyframe. And if I wanted 10 keyframes in there, I would just say 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, and so on until I get to 100. That would give me 10 keyframes. So in this keyframe arrangement, we only have 3 keyframes. In the first keyframe, the opacity for the element is set on a full 1. Then on the second keyframe of the animation, the opacity is brought almost down all the way to 0. It's at 0.1. You can make that a 0 if you want. And then on the third keyframe of the animation, we set the opacity back to a full 1. Now all that's left to do is give this flashit class to any of our elements on the page. Let's go down to this h1, put in class is equal to flashit. Now for quick demonstration purposes, just go and test this in Firefox or Internet Explorer, and you'll see now you have smooth flashing elements. Now any elements on the page that you want to give this class flashit will become flashing elements. Alright, now we're going to add webkit to that to make sure that it runs in Google Chrome. So we test this in Internet Explorer, we'll see everything works just fine. But at the end of the lesson, we're going to add webkit prefix to make sure it works in Safari and Chrome. Now let's move on to the pulse effect, and the pulse effect is a similar keyframe animation setup. So what I'll do first is I'll go into my body and I'll put in an image, and this is just to a heart.png image that I created, and I'll show you what that renders. You see now we have a heart on the page right under our flashing element. So now basically I'm just going to copy this whole arrangement, the flashit class and the animation that the flashit class attaches to the element. So I have the animation and the flashit class copied. I'm going to go right under those, pop them in, and change this to say pulseit, and the keyframe animation I'm going to name pulse. Now my heart has a default size of I think 200 pixels in its width. So what I'll do is I'll just change this from opacity to width, and we'll start it at 200 pixels. So I can just copy that and replace these opacity settings for width settings, and then change the middle one to be whatever I want it to grow or shrink to. I'll make it grow to 240 pixels, and I can change the timing on that animation, the way it behaves, and all the aspects of the animation. So let's put that on 0.5 so it beats fast. Now we have to make sure this pulseit class isn't referring to the flash keyframes animation. We have to make it refer to this pulse keyframe animation, and that should be all set. Now what we'll do is we'll go into the image, we'll type in image class, and we'll put in pulseit. So now the heart should appear to be beating. And I'm going to center everything in the page just so it pulses better. Text align center. Now let's preview that in Firefox. There you go. So you have pulsing elements and flashing elements. And basically the logic is just you're taking it from one state to another state and then back again, and making sure that it's smooth. That way there's no abrupt transition. And slap the webkit prefix onto the front of that. So you have the version with the webkit prefix and you have the version for all other browsers. And this won't be something that we have to do always. You won't always have to use the webkit prefix, because soon enough all webkit based browsers won't need this prefix anymore. It's just something we have to do temporarily. Now let's view that in Chrome. And there we go, we have flashing and pulsating elements. And that's it, there's not much to it.
If you enjoyed the video you just watched, click on the subscribe button to tune into Adam's channel. He produces new videos on a regular basis. Below the subscribe button are a few more of his video tutorials that other viewers have found to be helpful or inspiring. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.